Hi, good evening. Welcome to the February 7th meeting of the Somerville Historic Preservation Commission. It is 6:47 p.m. on February 7th, and I would like to call this meeting to order. Pursuant to Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, this meeting of the Somerville Historic Preservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation. A recording of these proceedings can be accessed at any time using the registration link at the top of this agenda. And as I said, welcome everybody. We'll do our customary introductions for those who are attending the meeting virtually, starting with commissioners. Mr. Falvey.
Hi there, my name is Ryan Falvey and I am a resident of Ward 2.
Thank you. Vice Chair Kelly.
Hi, I'm Robin Kelly. I'm the vice chair and I am the realtor representative on the board, on the commission, and I'm also a historic homeowner in Union Square.
Mr. Chagnon.
I'm DJ Chagnon. I'm a landscape architectural member of the commission and resident of Ward 5.
Thank you. And staff, we have Ms. Chekowicz.
Yes, hi, I am Wendy Chekowicz, a planning staff member for historic preservation and in general the planning, preservation and zoning division.
I'm Eric Parks, the chair. I'm a resident of Ward 3, architect and the historic homeowner. And that's who we are. And let's just go straight to the, we have two items on the agenda today. The first is HPC.ALT 2022.75, which is 78 Sycamore Street. The applicant is Daniel Macheras. The owner is the same as the applicant, and the project is, the applicant seeks a certificate of appropriateness to replacement of wood gutters with aluminum gutters. And do we have an applicant here for this case?
Will the applicant for this item please raise your hand so that we can go ahead and unmute you? I see Daniel. Daniel Macheras, I'm sorry if I pronounced your last name wrong. You have been unmuted.
I'm sorry, can you folks hear me? Okay, great.
Welcome. So why don't you just give us a quick rundown of what you're intending to do?
Yep, apologies for that. The audio was cutting out there for a second. So the rundown of what we're looking to do is we have some wood gutters that were installed on the property in I believe the mid 80s that are currently deteriorating and rotting out. So we would like to get those updated with a functional and more modern set of gutters that require less maintenance on our part. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Pretty succinct scope. Is there, I guess we will next move to public comment, a public comment portion of this case. If any members of the public like to speak, please raise your hand. Staff will take over.
Yes. Just as a reminder, public comment is 2 minutes long. You'll have 2 minutes to say your opinion on this particular project. All right, Ron Cavallo, you have been unmuted. You will just need to unmute yourself.
Ron Cavallo, resident of Ward 7, 70 Victoria Street. Resident and property owner, 5 generations, 129 years of ownership in Somerville. I've looked at this property. It's a very nice house, very nice house. Wooden gutters, I think, are running about $65 a linear foot installed. And on a structure such as this one, although it is very nice, I think it is unreasonable and unfair to impose wooden gutters on this house. I don't see it as having any improvement or degradation of the structure to not include wooden gutters. I think aluminum gutters, if they're properly installed, are a cost-effective and very reasonable request and solution to the homeowner's problem. I consider it economically unreasonable to impose wood gutters on this structure. Additionally, and I'm aware of this owning a number of historic properties. It's almost virtually impossible to get somebody that's skilled enough to properly install wood gutters, and it's almost impossible and very expensive to find somebody on an annual basis to oil and maintain them. I think it's really fair to the constituent to allow this.
Thank you. Any other members of the public like to speak?
Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Just please raise your hand and you will be unmuted for a 2-minute public comment period. All right. Mr. Chairman, I do not see anyone else with their hands raised. You may go ahead and close the public comment.
All right, I'll do that. I'll close the public comment portion of this case. And is there anything staff wants to add before we take up the commission, just going through the procedures?
Yes, the only thing is a quick recap. The current wood gutters were placed in the, what looks to be like 1980s. They're not original to the house. They currently have aluminum downspouts, so that is why they would like to have the new gutters be aluminum, so they'll match the downspouts. But that is essentially everything about it. We will say that wood gutters would be appropriate for the time of the house when it was constructed. There were wood gutters being placed on commercial and residential structures.
In that case, who wants to start off in the commission? Any initial thoughts?
I have two
Go ahead.
questions. First, one is for staff. Ms. Chekowitz, the color of the house is not in any way limited by historic, correct? That the owners of the property could decide to paint the house whatever color they want. Okay. And clearly the house is now brown, and so a brown gutter is what would match. But I think for any language that we would have, we would want to specify that the gutters must match the color of the house, so that if at some point the owners of the property chose to paint it green, that it would be a green house with brown gutters, if that's what other commissioners think is appropriate. So I just wanted to clarify that. My second question is for the applicant. So this property is a condominium, and so are you here on behalf of the condo association and all members?
I am.
You are.
Correct.
Okay. So just to be clear that the gutters would be a common element in the.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. In terms of my thoughts about this, while it would be wonderful to have new wood gutters installed that are architecturally appropriate, I don't object to the aluminum in great part because they are easily removed. They will not in any way impact the integrity of the structure, and they will be minimally visible as something not appropriate because of the setback of the property from the sidewalk and the current color palette being brown. It's difficult to even discern sort of what the shape is at the angles that you can get at, given how far back it's set. It's really mostly viewed straight on. So I don't have strong objection to the aluminum. So that's my thinking.
Yeah. My take on it, I think, if we were dealing with a case where there was any original material of the original wood gutters left or something like that, it'd be a different case. I think in this case, when we've already got aluminum downspouts, I don't know that I have any particular qualms about aluminum gutters here. It'll help preserve the rest of the roof and the integrity of the building by having a more easily maintainable gutter solution that's not highly prominent, not highly visible. I think as a practical choice, given that we're replacing a 1980s wood gutter, it feels totally appropriate to me. To Vice Chair Kelly, to your point about color, I think even if these were wood gutters, there'd be nothing to stop a homeowner from deciding to paint the entire house a very different color from the gutters and have the gutters be popping out even if they were wood. So, because we don't have any purview over paint colors because they're all reversible. So I think we just have to trust that they're going to keep it aesthetically appropriate.
Ms.
Checkworth, could you
I mean, I think we
clarify
can.
that?
Yes,
We
Mr.
can
Chairman.
request that the new gutters match, but
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you, we can have a condition, and there is a condition in the staff report right now that states that the gutters will be made to match whatever part of the building it is resting against. So that can be something you guys can condition.
Thank you.
so I guess that would mean that we wouldn't have purview over what the color was, but if they decided to repaint the house bright pink, they'd have to paint the gutters bright pink. That's the same. That makes sense. Okay.
Any other thoughts? How about you, Mr. Falvey?
Yeah, I'm definitely in alignment with the other commission members. I think the aluminum will be fine. I noticed that the color in the information pack is shown as royal brown, so it's very clear that the property owners are taking into consideration the matching of the colors, and I think it's for this circumstance, the aluminum is a perfectly appropriate solution. That's it.
Okay. And I will be the dissenter. I don't, this is the oldest wood structure in Somerville. It's 300 plus years old. I've installed wood gutters. Any finished carpenter can do it. It's not a big deal. I get what you're saying about it being less visible because it's set back from the house, but I just personally, philosophically, I'm going to be opposed in this one, but that's my opinion on it. And it's an opportunity to change the downspouts with round or something, go the other direction. But that's my take on it. Anybody else have anything else to say? Should we go to a vote?
So Chair Parks, if I could ask you, is your preference only for wood, or if there were a change to, I don't know if it's a fiberglass, but the molded.
Oh, right. Yeah, they do a white. It's the profile. Yeah, the materiality doesn't. Right, it's far enough back. The one that's submitted here doesn't even remotely look like, and it's got a chamfer on it. It doesn't even have any. Well, it's probably better than the K-style still. But they do make a PVC gutter that is the same profile as a wood gutter, the modern wood gutter, not the old ones that had a deeper curve to it.
Because those can be painted to whatever color, and they have round downspouts as an option that can also be painted.
And we can't require the removal of downspouts, and it's just sort of like someone did a wrong thing by putting those downspouts up. Should we let the cascade and say, okay, might as well take the gutters, and the next it's, I don't know, vicious circle.
I do want to point out, when I zoom in on the last page of the staff report, the page 23, with a historic photo from the National Register listing, those look like they were aluminum gutters back then to me.
Oh, in the old day, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, so I think that means that somewhere in the late 80s, someone said, oh, it's the oldest wood. Yeah, August of 78 is the photo. And they're in pretty poor shape in that photo. So my guess is someone in the 80s said, oh, it's the oldest wood structure in Somerville. We ought to put wood gutters back on it. Here we are 20 years later and the wood gutters are falling apart.
And no 300-year-old wood gutter is going to be, they probably didn't even have gutters. At that time period, it's likely they would have used those, what do they used to call those? The Yankee, you see them in old rural buildings. It's just two pieces of wood held off the eave, and it's kind of a homemade wood gutter. That was actually way, way back. This probably did have something profiled because they were in the city and they had resources. It's the Tufts family, so they knew people who would mill them gutters. Anyway, that's and I agree that it's set back, and you know, from that distance, you might not be so quick to notice the profile of it. So I acknowledge your other points on that.
I would also note that, you know, we're not opposed to using, you know, fiberglass as a material as well. It's just really we're trying to stay away from wood, right? So, you know, anything that is going to maintain the integrity of the property, we're happy to go in that direction. We just don't want to be breaking out the ladders every year to get up and oil those things, you know?
Yeah, I have wood gutters. I know the whole, and I replaced them myself. So I know the whole deal. Yeah, I'm not opposed for areas like that get a whole lot of weather. I'm personally not so didactic about keeping it all original wood. If it's something that's going to get, you know, if it's a skirt along the edge of the water that gets a lot of splash, or gutters, or even fascia, I think that's a good application for synthetics. So if you're amenable to that, that would be fine. I don't know.
I think we can go. I've obviously got to go and confer with the other unit owners, but I don't think there would be an objection to that over aluminum or copper or any other material. It's just the wood that we were having a difficult time with.
Yeah,
And-
I mean, that's my opinion. That's the rest of the commission. Are they feeling that way?
And the applicant, have you discussed at all replacement of the downspouts as part of the project?
The downspouts we have not discussed now.
Because the concern, if it wasn't clear as we were kind of talking amongst ourselves, is that the shape of the current downspouts, the aluminum downspouts, are not in any way historic. And so,
understood.
You know, we often, you know, we'll recommend that downspouts be round, and there are round downspout shapes available with the PVC type stuff, which can then be painted exactly to match the house color.
So I guess without making a financial commitment for the rest of the group in the building, you know, I'm certainly open to it. You know, if we could kind of go, if we could have the option, I guess, to do either or, it would be preferable. But, you know, I guess I would defer to the committee for that.
On the downspout situation or the gutters?
Both.
Yeah, well, it's up to, I mean, my personal preference would be the PVC over the aluminum. But if that's just me, if everybody else is not so concerned, then we could certainly give you the option to go either way.
What do we, Ms.
My
Beck,
side-
are there examples of approving something with certain conditions, but then also making a statement that the preference or the guidance would be to do something different? So if in this example we were to say, if it has to be aluminum, you know, go with God, move forward, you know, provided that they match the color of the house and the downspouts. But our guidance and strong preference would be wood first, but as a second, PVC painted to match the house color with round downspouts. Is there a way to sort of include both, you know, provide approval, but also state a preference or guidance?
Mr. Chairman, through you, so yes and no. we can't condition the downspouts because they're not part of the work that's under review. So that can't be conditioned. That would be going beyond our purview. You can, and we've done it in the last 2 years where there's a condition that says to use, for instance, PVC in this case, that's the preference, and based on whether or not the applicant can get approval or the other homeowners, that would be what it's based off of. But we do have them. And then if you can't, that we would then go for be able to approve the aluminum. But you will need to take into consideration that we cannot condition the downspouts. But we have done it before. I think we've had ones that said that based off of staff looking at it, like we've had things where staff determined it based off of also the monetary value, whether or not pavers or brick pavers were going to be approved. So it is possible.
Thank you.
To me, it feels like it's the thing we have to be, in terms of, well, how we vote, it's got to be pretty cut and dry. We either approve one or both. And then the minutes would reflect that we suggested that we go this route. But I don't know, as far as the metal versus PVC thing, I guess the question for the commission is, do people want to allow either or go with the PVC only? Before I open my mouth, you were all fine with the aluminum, so I don't want to speak for all of us when I suggest that.
I mean, I think speaking for myself, my take on it, I wasn't aware that there were out there, and I probably should have been, PVC gutters that were that close in profile to wood. I think of, the synthetic gutters as looking at least as bad as aluminum. So I'm happy to hear that it's out there as an option, and knowing that that's a possibility, I think I'd be on board with that being the commission's preference, with aluminum as a backup if it's unfeasible for one reason or another.
I've seen them installed. They're good. I assume they take.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah, they match. The thing with gutters, there's an old profile, the Boston profile. If you ever go down to one of these rabbit holes with a mill worker, they'll tell you that the profile of wood gutters has changed and it's now more boxy than it used to be. So the only way to get the true wood gutters is to get it custom milled, and I don't think that's something we would require in this case, at least. So, but the PVC ones look just like the standard new wood gutters from a distance, and you don't have to oil them, and they'll last the rest of my life. Shouldn't say much.
The question is, will they last the rest of my life?
Yeah. Just healthy. I don't know. PVC, well, yeah, right. 30 years they're abating everything that's plastic. I don't know. Okay, so that's DJ have spoken. How about Vice Chair Kelly and Mr. Falvey? What do you think?
I think my preference would be between PVC and metal would be PVC, because it could be painted the exact color and finish of the property, and so that it just kind of recedes even more, as opposed to it's brownish. So, and if the house were to change colors, at some point, that there is the option to paint them to match whatever that new color might be, where if it's a sort of dyed at the factory aluminum version, I don't know if there's a reliable way to paint aluminum gutters that wouldn't end up being a total mess after one season of snow and ice.
I think, yeah, you can get a paint for everything, I believe. But the thing with the PVC gutters is they'll come bright white. And so I think following up on staff's, if we could condition it on the paint, a paint color matching the body of the house, regardless of what material it is, that would solve that. Because you'd hate to see a stark white gutter. I don't think the homeowner would want to see that either.
We do not.
Yeah. Okay. And Ryan, what did you, were you going to say something? I don't know if I cut you off.
No, I mean, I support all the thinking that you guys have all led with, and the PVC sounds like a reasonable solution, assuming that it's accessible, easy, fabricated and such, equivalent to a certain extent that aluminum is. It was a good suggestion or brokering from Vice Chair Kelly asking deeper about what your intent was with that. So I think it sounds like a nice solution potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Well, would someone like to make, well, do we have a motion? So homeowners, are you, it sounds like you're amenable to a PVC gutter and reusing your existing fence?
It would be nice to have the option for both, but yes, I think PVC would be our first choice, as long as it's not cost prohibitive. We would like to go that direction. I think that would help maintain the integrity of the property, and it would be a fine solution. But it would be nice to not have to revisit it, just in the event that that did not work out for whatever reason.
I mean, it's gonna be more than aluminum. I can tell you, you have to hire someone who knows how to install. Actually, I think some gutter people will actually install that also. You don't need to get a carpenter up there. I mean, based on what you're saying, I'd be fine allowing the metal as a fallback if you can't swing that. It's going to be less than 65 a foot to buy that. Last I saw it was 20 something.
Would it make sense putting in some sort of a staff review condition here in the event that PVC ends up not being considered feasible by the property owner? Just so that we know, because I mean, if there is the desire to do aluminum, and if it's determined that PVC is not practical for a number of reasons, I'm just trying to play out what the next step would be.
Hmm.
And if we don't have to be involved in the decision making that way, and it was staff review because of some significant hardship, that may allow the process to move more quickly, or come back and have another discussion. I'm just
Mr. Chairman, through
contemplating how
you,
this plays out. Yeah.
on a small note, technically we cannot use the terms hardship because that is a separate application. And it has a legal meaning to it in the ordinance. So, but you could put a condition that has to do with staff reviewing, and the applicant could provide us the necessary permissions from the other property owners and the quotes for both wood and PVC for our review.
I'm just suggesting something that would allow the process to continue forward in a timely manner for the property owners, but that.
Yeah, and I would also like to stress that, from a property owner perspective, this is considered a critical issue because our current gutters are effectively non-existent at this point. I mean, they aren't performing their task. It's impacting the siding of the house, windows, a number of other facets that we would like to avoid.
Would you be doing this work as soon as the weather allows you to actually finish things outside?
ASAP, we need to get this
Really?
done.
Because you couldn't paint until May or June or something, May, I guess. Yeah. Well, okay, among the four of us, who is willing to allow either solution and who wants to stick with one solution?
I am okay providing both options with sort of with the PVC in position 1 and aluminum understood to be the alternative or backup choice. But I do think that we need to make sure that the conditions for matching the color of the house and obviously, I mean, the other unit owners will need to weigh in, but I don't know that that needs to be in our requirement. Am I incorrect that with the condo association that the permit would be conditioned on, permit from the building department would be conditioned on unit owner sign off, that's a process that's taken care of through ISD?
Mr. Chairman, through you, yes. We also require sign off in historic as well.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Thoughts, TJ, Ryan?
I basically agree with what Vice Chair Kelly stated. I think my question would be regarding the color to Chair Parks, to your point about it not being painting appropriate weather, but the applicants intend to move forward as quickly as possible. Is it worth putting a time frame on when it gets painted, with the understanding that whatever it is, it may well go up light and then get painted, so that they have something there for the spring and then get painted once the weather turns and it's able to get painted? That wouldn't bother me personally, as long as there's a condition in there that it will get painted. It won't be white forever.
Yeah, and frankly, I don't think that we would want to have contractors come out twice for this, right? So you know, once it's up, we want it painted.
Okay, so you'd
That may be
wait until you're reliably above freezing. Okay.
Yeah, so the trick is you wouldn't want to paint until the weather is warm enough.
Yeah.
And it would likely be a different contractor. So, you know, the gutter installers are likely not going to be the best to do the paint job effectively.
Fair enough.
Probably want painters to do it so that it's done correctly and, you know, has a good, you know, life expectancy.
It makes sense to paint it on the ground and then touch it up once it's up there. That's not really hard.
Given that, they might be able to shop paint it.
Yeah, ideally, you know, depending on who we order it from, it can get painted at the shop and then, you know, delivered pre-painted and then hung. But
okay. Well, it sounded like there's a sort of a mild consensus on allowing either option, with a heartfelt suggestion to go with PVC because that's the better way to do it on your 300-year-old house that you have, that you're very, very proud of and want to make look really great and all that.
We're working on it. There's much work to be done.
And if that's the case, then I would entertain some sort of motion that reflects that.
I will try. So I move that we vote to approve a certificate of appropriateness for PVC gutters with the understanding that they will be painted to match the color of the house, and that permission or agreement from the other unit owners will be provided. If for some reason PVC cannot be installed, the commission also approves the use of aluminum in royal brown to match the color of the house. Did I get everything in there?
I think so.
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Chagnon, and all in favor of Vice Chair Kelly's motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? We'll do a roll call. Mr. Falvey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Chagnon,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. There you have it. You have a slightly wishy-washy approval on your gutter selection. Let us know.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
And as
Thank
you're
you.
reviewing things with the other property, the other unit owners, and you are exploring things, if you have the opportunity to do round downspouts, that would.
I will bring that up as well. Yeah, they're generally pretty amenable to anything that's going to, you know, preserve the look of the house, even if it costs a little bit extra. That's fine. So yeah, we'll definitely bring that up as well.
So that's not part of the certificate of appropriateness. It's just a
Yeah,
little
no, understood. Understood.
suggestion.
Nudge.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Good luck with the project.
Thank you all very much. And can I ask one quick question too before we move on to the next order of business? So we had this in here as an alteration, right? And then we also submitted a request for repair / maintain in kind for the siding and the roof of the property. I don't know if that's something that we need to discuss or if that's just we're good to go at that point.
Mr. Chairman, through you, that it will be a staff level sign off because it's an in-kind replacement. So we're going to write that real fast. You'll have it within a week.
That's fine. Thank you so much
You might
for
actually get that approval faster than we write out your decision.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Our next and final case is HPC ALT 2022.76. The address is 88 College Avenue. The applicant is Melissa and Chris Frost. The owners are the same as the applicant. And the project is that the applicant seeks a certificate of appropriateness to replace two condensers for air conditioning system on the right side of the property and visible from the right of way. And do we have an applicant here for that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Chris and Melissa Frost are the applicant and homeowners. I have unmuted you, Chris and Melissa. You will just need to unmute yourself on your side.
Hi. Good
Oh.
evening.
Hello.
Hi, folks. We can hear you. Welcome. You want to give us a quick rundown on what you're planning?
Sure. After 20 years of living here in many window units, we've decided to bring air conditioning into the house, central air. And it's a matter of placing the air condenser, the two air condenser units. And it is our wish to have those units on the side of our house as opposed to the rear, as the side is seen less and they'll be further away from both us and the public. So that is our appeal.
Thank you. And I see you have on the staff report, everything is spelled out. Are there any members of the public who'd like to speak about this case?
Any members of the public wishing to speak on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be given 2 minutes to talk on this. Mr. Chairman, I do not see any members of the public with their hands raised. There are only 3 other individuals here other than the applicant, so really easy to check that. You may close the public comment.
Now we'll close the public comment portion of this case. And I'll ask staff, is there anything you want to add to this?
Yes, so the applicant is requesting to install a small concrete pad and the 2 air condensers on the right side of the property. With this will be some conduit lines that they plan to encase to match the downspouts on that side. We do take note in the staff report that previously the commission had given staff the right to approve these sort of things should they be in the rear of the property, which is why this is coming to you, because it's on the side elevation rather than the rear of the property. We also noted that already in there is a condition on the conduits being made to match the side of the property and also to make them as inconspicuous as possible. Those conditions are already suggested by us and placed in there, regardless of where the approval for the air condensers locations.
Okay. Oh, having a scale problem here. Thank you. Are there, let's see, we're ready to public. All right, let's take it up as a commission. Any initial thoughts from anybody?
I have a question for the applicants. Is there, or what is the, how did you arrive at the location you're requesting? How did that become the most desirable spot? From a visual perspective, it would seem that putting the concrete pad and condensers behind the box bay on that side of the house would be less obvious, or even alongside the rear deck.
That's probably true.
Is it,
Uh,
was it a
that
concern
area-
of noise reverberating with the garage structure of the neighbor, or?
It's a little bit of that. That is a pretty crowded area back there due to the neighbor's garage structure and his location of garbage and recycling, which goes right up to that line. The other side of the box bay is a little more open towards his driveway. But the condensers are tucked within that box bay either way. And we're, obviously our main concern is to keep these condensers hidden as much as possible. And so we feel like this location is much less visible from those walking on the street, whether it be College Ave or William. From the back, there's a lot more sidewalk, which is closer to the house.
Yeah, our back, because we're on the corner of William Street, the back corner that is on the other side where the deck is, that corner nearest to William Street is really close. And because of, it seems like there's so much traffic of people who walk by that William Street, that these units would be a huge eyesore for anyone walking, because that is a really busy area. That's a busy street. There's churches, people park on that. I mean, William Street is a very busy spot where we were trying to find the area on our property that no one would really see them. And you wouldn't be able to get close up to them. That's why we chose the side. And we decided to go with a much narrower design of the condenser to make it not stick out as much, not as projected as some other forms of condensers.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just looking at your site plan, and you're cursed because you're on a corner. There is no, as you said, the back there is no rear. There's just another side of your lot there. But I would also pick up on what Vice Chair Kelly said. Just looking at the site plan, it seems like that spot on the other side of that bay, on that same side, would be ideal, in that it's less visible from the street. It's still not visible from William Street. It just seems like a good opportunity there. I was wondering if you had, if it's something you'd consider, or if you'd rule it out because of the reasons you mentioned of being close to some trash, the neighbors.
We also have laundry there. I don't think I
No. It's
think it's too small.
It's just the location to the neighbor's garbage, I guess, that has turned us away from that area.
And their building. Yeah, and
But
their
the-
building,
Well, but
The garage.
right, their garage.
Mhm.
There's also a fence in there too, so it doesn't,
that doesn't matter.
right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, looking at Google Street View, it looks like there's a fence that projects part of the way forward along your wall there. Is that,
Yes,
reading that right?
That fence goes, yeah, uh, from the back of the house, parallel to the back of the house, to the property line and then down.
And sort of even with the front of their garage, is that, am I reading the,
No,
No.
no, it's further back.
it is from the back of our house, that back
Oh, okay.
corner.
Back edge, got it. Oh, so it's,
It is a smaller area for sure, but
well, but it's not that much smaller than the space from
Right.
your bay to the rhododendrons, though.
it does make things more difficult on the interior in our basement, but I suppose that's a workaround.
Looking at about an 8'9" by 21" pad, if I'm reading this right, condenser
Yeah.
pad.
Mhm.
It looks to me, I mean, yeah, at the base level, this is a mini split system. There's no place to put it where it's not visible from the public. So obviously I'm not going to say you can't put air conditioners anywhere. And it is a reversible system if in 20 years they invent fusion derived cooling or whatever. It's not such an egregious thing in my eyes to add those in general. And as long as it's not front and center in front of the turret there. But it seems to me like it would be a better place on the other side of the bay. So my feeling is that ultimately if the right side of the bay, what we just suggested, doesn't work out for one reason or another, then where you have it here is probably the best alternate to that. But I just jumped the gun. Who else has thoughts on that about Ryan and DJ?
Do you understand?
Yeah.
I see.
I would agree, Sheriff Parks, about your opinion, if it's possible to do it in the back side of the bay. But I think with the appropriate shrubage and such, and the size of the condensers as they're speaking about, I would imagine they're not going to be really they're not going to stand out or draw that much attention. And I also should say, what a beautiful house. You folks have obviously done some wonderful work there. It's really spectacular.
Thank you so much.
You clearly care a lot about the appearance, and it looks beautiful from William Street and the other side and all that. So I think you folks certainly understand the visuals and the appearance and all that kind of stuff. So I think your best judgment on this, I think, would rule the day, in my opinion.
Appreciate that.
Sure.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, too, Mr. Falvey's comment on the shrubbery and so forth for screening. That's sort of my only hesitation about it in front of the box bay is the fact that, after you get the 21 inches of the pad and the 6-inch offset from the building wall, you've only got, a little over 2 feet before the property line that's right next to the neighbor's driveway. And you need some amount of clearance around the air conditioning units. You don't want branches growing into them. So I don't know that there's anything you could plant between them and the driveway. The rhododendrons will screen them from College straight on, but I think looking at an angle, it'd be harder to hide. I wonder if it does end up in the front, if like a little bit of an architectural screening or a low fence or something might help.
You're certainly amenable to that. We would take your suggestions as to what that would be.
Also wonder if it would help if you were able to slide it further back on that wall. It looks like I'm looking at the hand-drawn plan of the site. If you would split it back a few feet, you might create some space to put an additional planting that might help screen a little bit from a more oblique angle along College Ave. Or
certainly push them further along that wall. They can go anywhere along that wall.
Just don't let the neighbors pull their car out of the driveway. That'll screen.
Right.
Those cars haven't moved in quite a long time.
They're not.
Okay.
I just want to say that on this call is the Steve Martin, who is our, who's the person who's our contractor who's doing the AC work. And he might, if you need him to, he can answer any questions you have about if those AC units would work.
Yeah, that would be perfect if he could contribute to that.
I will say, looking at the photographs that were provided, it looks like there's both some planting in the corner of the box bay as well as a downspout coming down. So it may be that it was shifted forward so that the downspout wasn't emptying out right into the back of the condensers, which is probably a good reason not to shove it all the way back.
Well, we
Mr.
thought,
Chairman, through you, I
Yeah.
have unmuted Steve Martin.
Okay.
Good evening.
Hi there.
How are you?
Thanks. How are you?
Good. So looking at the photos and just try to point out some areas, we were on site. We did look at that backside of the bump out. And in order to keep the proper spacing between the units for electrical code and some of the other mechanical codes that we're going to have to deal with behind the bump out is, I don't have the exact measurements, but I know at the time when we were there originally looking to quote the project, it was just too tight for service. So we pushed and asked the homeowners to really try and get them to be approved for the front of the bump out on the College Ave side because of service and code, which we're also, to somebody's point, we're going to have to make sure that we're within that those setbacks and safety. So I don't know if the homeowners have the measurements of the back area, but I know that looking at the plot plan,
I don't have that.
considerably smaller.
That's the distance between, yeah.
Does. I'm just looking at the photo. I see a side view. There's some kind of a gray object peeking out from behind the bay there. Is that, what is
That's
that?
just a water barrel.
Okay. Okay, so it's not fixed in place. But so, okay.
The other, DJ brought up the fact of the downspout exiting into the middle of that pad. And that kind of brings up the idea of where to put the supply lines and to the conduit. And we thought that we would use that downspout, take it away from being a downspout and turn it into a cover for those lines. So keep it where it is, but instead of having it be functioning as water, turn it into a conduit for these lines, hidden in a way.
Clever.
This is a mini split thing, right? You have little wall units and.
No,
They're not mini splits. They're traditional. It's called a small duct high velocity system, specifically designed
Okay.
for older homes. So it is a traditional split, and where there's two indoor units, one in the attic space and one in the basement, and they have condensers that are outside, but it looks a lot like a split condenser because it's a horizontal application. So it is a conventional system with a what we would call a horizontal or a suitcase style condenser that has a fan discharge out the front versus the top in order to keep it narrower.
Okay. So the conduits are just bringing it up to their handlers, the inside, wherever. It's not like they're going all over the house.
Correct. There's gonna be one conduit. The other one's going right through above the foundation sill, right into the basement where the indoor units plan to be put inside, and then one will run up the exterior of the house to the knee wall space, and then to the attic where the second air handler is proposed to go.
Okay. I'm just noticing your wood gutters. Thank you.
phew, get some parts.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful house. I'm just looking at it. I'm having a virtual tour of your house from this curb here, and I've always loved the stained glass.
It's been, yeah, stained glass has been great. Opened that up a couple of years ago, so.
So those are my thoughts. Is that the best spot visually would be behind the bay. And if it doesn't work there for reasons that are someone else's expertise, I think where you're proposing is probably the next best option. Obviously, the more you screen it, the better. It's more of a DJ thing of planting or artscape or whatever.
Sure.
Well,
Mr.
we-
Chairman, through you.
Yes.
You can also, should you choose to do so, make a condition that the applicant will work with staff on appropriate screening.
And if need be, if you needed any input from DJ, would you be willing to lend that in,
Yeah.
Mr. Chagnon?
I would be willing to lend that in. I thought, oh, I hear Chair Parks volunteering me, but I would be
Yeah,
willing
exactly.
to. I was going to volunteer myself.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it's a small scope area there, but yeah.
Happy to-
I'd be
happy to-
comfortable with that because I can't definitively say you need to move it because I don't know if that's actually possible.
Right.
So
What do we
So-
feel about, what do we feel about the conduit matching the paint of the house as it goes up?
No.
Or
as
Yeah,
opposed to,
as opposed to the applicant's suggestion of repurposing an existing downspout.
Right, so if the downspout is no longer needed as a downspout, then where it does not match the house, should that be removed?
Oh.
Or,
so applicant, when you talked about repurposing the downspout, did you mean literally running pipe through it or just?
Yes, yeah.
And how far up the wall would it have to go?
It has to go pretty much all the way up. It's the knee wall of the third floor, so.
Is it getting up to the attic with the other unit, I guess?
It would be going into the overhang, so it would start at the bottom where the condenser is, and it would actually, instead of going to the gutter, it would actually go into the overhang, carrying the piping inside of it.
Right up there.
I think, Vice Chair Kelly, that if that can truly be pulled off, that I'm looking at a picture of it, it looks exactly like that, minus the elbow that brings it into the gutter.
Correct.
It's probably best that it match the other one, unless they want to paint both of them. That makes sense.
There's also others, just to make a point, there's others around the rest of the house. You can see
Right.
one to the left of the front door, then there's some on the other
Right.
side of the home. So they're all that aluminum metal, round metal,
Which was,
galvanized.
Which during our last renovation, when we took off our aluminum siding, we got approved to have those downspouts.
they were
So-
suggested.
Yeah, I mean, they were much worse before.
I think,
So,
well,
yeah. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to ask one of you all what you all thought.
My reaction originally reading the staff report was envisioning a second downspout in close proximity to the existing one, which would have looked a little bit odd and forced and everything else. But I think if it's actually repurposing the downspout that's there, that seems to me like there's no visible impact on the facade of the home compared to the existing condition. And I think trying instead to run a conduit that's painted as closely as possible to match, doesn't seem significantly better. I mean, the option is there that someday these downspouts could get painted to match, although not easy to do.
Is that your preference to paint those downspouts? We didn't think that was the preference. That's why we left them.
Go ahead.
Anybody? I know.
It becomes a philosophical discussion of paint. You have a house that already has a lot of sticking. I wouldn't quite call it sticking, but does it match the body color? Does it match the trim color? You actually do. Where do you break it? I found that when you actually try to paint it to match each thing it crosses, that color, it gets a little bit silly.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. When I first saw this, I thought, oh, they haven't painted their downspouts yet. That was my first reaction when I looked at your thing there. Once you paint it, then you have to keep painting it. That's the little caveat. Every time you repaint it, it's another thing. If I were to do it from my place, I'd probably paint it the body color.
Mm-hmm.
And then switch to the trim color where it crosses the fascia, the frieze board up in the top there. So that it would be the lighter color down to the point where it hits the body color. Then I'd probably have it be the body color all the way down to the ground, keeping it that color past those two horizontal bands.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't, this is just hypothetical. We can't tell you to paint anything. I think your idea of running it in the downspout to me, is a fine one.
And just to be clear, so that we don't end up in a situation where you discover that you're needing the downspout, have you consulted with whoever installed the gutters for you to understand whether the sort of rain runoff load will be okay just going to that single gutter with whatever its dimensions are now?
We simply replaced in kind. So there was nobody who we consulted. And as the person who's constantly climbing up there to clean my gutters, I can tell you that that middle gutter doesn't get a lot of action.
Okay.
The gutter travels around the bay, and it's actually a gutter in the back that gets most of the action, and then the one on the front corner. So I wouldn't have suggested it if I thought it was going to be an issue.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay.
So then I will move that we vote to approve a certificate of appropriateness for placement of the cement pad and condensers as indicated on the plans presented, with the plan for the conduit to run inside one of the existing downspouts, and that staff will be consulted regarding appropriate screening, plantings and screenings.
Second that motion.
Great.
Okay. All in favor of the motion put forward by Vice Chair Kelly, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll do a roll call. Mr. Falvey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Chagnon,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. So there you have it, folks.
Great.
Thank you for bringing your project to us. You too. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And that concludes our business. We have minutes and we have the draft rules of policy and procedure and a CPC update.
Correct. You will just need to, Mr. Chairman, through you, you'll just need to close the public hearing portion of the meeting.
Oh, beyond the public comment, but okay, I'll close the public hearing portion of this case. Do I do that normally with it after we conclude each? What do you mean for the whole meeting?
The meeting.
Okay. All right, so the public hearing is closed. And did we get the minutes? Why did I not see those? Look at your last email.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you, it should be in the email from February 3rd.
Yeah, that's what I had open. All right, I'm going to take a quick minute just to look at that.
Also, Mr. Chairman, through you, I will just remind the commission that at the meeting in December, you had reviewed the new template we will be using for minutes. However, Dina, who does our minutes, had already started working on these before those new templates were decided upon, so this should be in the old format.
My only comment on these minutes is in the first case, the first bullet point, it spells knob of knob and tube without the K. So it needs the KNOB as opposed to NOB. But otherwise, things looked correct to me.
This is in the historic significance determinations. Okay.
Good catch.
Super nitpicky.
No issues here.
I haven't found anything that looks pretty good to me so far.
Yeah, I'm good with these. I don't see anything else. They look nice. Anybody else need a moment?
I move that we vote to approve the meeting minutes with the one spelling chain noted.
Second the motion.
Favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Falvey,
Yes.
Mr. Chagnon,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So we have minutes. And have you all, I actually did read the draft, the rules and policies and procedure. Have you had a chance to look at these, or do you want a moment?
It skimmed them. It's one of those things where I didn't do it with the other with the current rules and policies and procedure open in front of me to see what we were changing, if anything.
Are we supposed to vote on these? Is that the?
Mr. Chairman, through you, so you could vote on them tonight, but eventually you will have to vote on them. These are updated. There's a lot more. I think the last ones were 10 pages, maybe. So these are a lot more in depth. They have to do with quorum, public conduct, the conduct of members, Robert's rules, everything. So if you would like more time to review them, and at the next meeting we can go over them, you can even email comments, concerns that we can go over at the next meeting. You can approve them now, you can approve them at a later date. It's whatever makes you comfortable.
I'd like to request that we have a little more time. I think it would be particularly helpful having Dick's opinion on this and having him weigh in on, a lot of the guidelines there.
Okay.
I do have, I have found like a half dozen questions / comments, and I don't know if we want to talk about it now, or if I should just email you.
We can go over them now if you'd like. And have everyone else's opinions on them. You can ask questions, especially in case anyone else has the same questions.
Okay, and then if delaying it, as Ryan suggested, I'm fine. This is just sort of a working review of it. So just to clarify, on the first page, under responsibilities, the second AVB there, the decision-making authority regarding the issuance of certificates of appropriateness, certificates of non-applicability, that word, and the certificates of hardship. And this is sort of like a reminder to which things do we not, a certificate of non-applicability, is that not what you issue, for example, an in-kind repair and like the case before we had earlier with the siding change?
So there's two different ones we can do at staff level, certificate of appropriateness or a certificate of non-applicability. Certificates of appropriateness are for things that are in kind, or for instance, some of the things that you have given staff the ability to review. For instance, the solar panels, switching asphalt shingles, 3 tab to architectural. Those are the things that go for a certificate of appropriateness. A certificate of non-applicability are for things that are interior or in the rear and can't be seen. So it's essentially saying that we reviewed it. We don't have purview to tell you what to do with this, but it's been reviewed and approved by staff and we haven't found any issues. And the reason we review those particular projects is so that, for instance, people who are doing kitchen interior work sometimes will have to install vents. And the only way, which is an exterior feature, and the only way we pick up on that is reviewing those to make sure there's no vents that are going, nothing that's sort of a domino effect that will affect the outside.
Okay. I think there is my circle.
I'm sorry, Chair Parks, is your question in this section the distinction between the commission, this group, versus staff?
Yeah, I
Because
think when I read this,
the authority is with the commission, but we have delegated certain things to staff to, we've authorized staff to do certain things for the commission. But the
That's
actual
correct.
authority is with us.
okay, and that's when I was rereading and I began to realize that probably is the way. So when I first read this, I thought, wait a minute, are we now reviewing all these things? Or so the delegation to staff happened so long ago that I just assumed that that was something that was baked into our rules, that wasn't, there's a separation of responsibility. So I think you've all answered my non-issue there, that one.
It's the or its designee working on behalf of the commission portion of the
Yeah.
introduction.
You're an extension of our commission there is that, yeah. Okay, I see notify you 4 weeks prior to the meeting. On the third page under standards of conduct, I guess that if the state begins to eventually allow us to do some kind of funky hybrid thing where we have meetings that are both in person and virtual or something, is there any reason we'd end up needing to tweak the standards of the way meeting attendance is defined in here? Members
Let me take a look.
Members may attend meetings remotely in accordance with relevant state laws. I guess that probably leaves us enough of an opening.
Yes, I think that, Mr. Chairman, through you, I think it's meant to say that if we have those rights, then you can do it virtually.
And have you heard anything about that by the state? Like, are they?
No, I imagine we will find out when Sarah White and I are having panic attacks about whether or not we have to cancel a meeting at the last second.
At 11:59 p.m. the night before, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I just note on public meetings on page 5, under the order of operations there, you list general business and continuance and requests and minutes happening before we hear public hearings. I don't think we ever really do that. It's just like a standard issue procedure we do for all of our commissions.
Correct. So, Mr. Chairman, this was done with simultaneously while the ZBA and the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Board were doing, and the Urban Design Commission were all doing their updated rules at the same time. So there was a base to them. You do not actually have to take the minutes first. You can still keep taking them last. That's fine. You have the ability to pull that out of order. And you can also say that you would like it in our rules to be farther down. That's fine as well. We have some small tweaks from the other boards, as do they.
Okay. Well, we could keep it that way, just understanding I'm never going to do that because I like to get people out of the way as soon as possible. The question. Discuss. I can't read my writing. Guess. Well, ignore it then. Can't be that important if I didn't care to write it well. Under the public testimony, when people read letters, do we need to address this? I've been on some commissions, like in Cambridge, they will actually read every single letter into the minutes, which is kind of annoying. We don't do that, which is fine by me. We just say we've received 13 letters in support or something.
Correct.
We need to describe any of that into this, bake any of that.
Do you mean describe how we present the letters that the public has
Yes.
provided? No, you don't need to address that in there. How we do it is fine. It doesn't need to be addressed in the rules and regulations.
There's no state requirement. It's totally up to the town as to how they handle it. It's not like.
I
Somebody
believe
from-
so. I would have to check with Sarah White on that. Yes, it is correct. You are correct.
fine not
That's
reading
up
it.
to everyone.
Yeah. Okay. And I see, so we have a quorum of 4 people required for HDO and DRO, but for matters related to the administration of the commission, the quorum is only 3 members. So that means if we decide to discuss this, for example, we could do it with only 3 people.
You can hold discussions. Voting items are a little bit different, but yes, you can hold discussions on non-hearing items.
Okay, I didn't know that till I read this. Applicant presentations is required for their item to be heard. Sometimes we've had you present or staff present for people. I know it's happened before, maybe not recently, where there's an applicant who's not here and you present it for them. It's usually a pretty lightweight kind of case or hearing for something. Is that something that we want to allow in this text?
That is more of an exception than a rule. We can address it. I would have to talk with Sarah White about the background on that. But I imagine because it's an exception, it really wouldn't need to be codified.
Okay, I just want to get us in some kind of trouble where someone says you just broke your own rules, and if we have to have a stipulation that we can allow exceptions in the text of it. I'm fine with in those cases. And I didn't realize this, applicants pay money every time we continue their case for re-advertising? There's a fee for that?
Depending on how we notice it, yes, they could potentially, if they aren't heard and publicly continued, then yes, they have to repay a fee. So for instance, if we don't put them on an agenda for the next meeting and they've been continued, then they haven't been properly, it's hard to explain. Essentially, as long as you continue it at a public meeting and in a public forum and it's noted that way, then no, we don't have to re-advertise for them. But if we don't do that, then yes, they would have to pay again, because we would have to re-notice, do the legal advertisements again, and that does cost money.
Okay. I think that was everything. I note that we officially have 3 regular meetings to approve minutes. And that just, with our new 2-week schedule, that just tightens up our meeting minute review timeframe.
Correct.
I think that's it. Any other questions? I'll just give you a email holler. Yeah. All right. No further questions.
How did we end up at 2 meetings a month? Is it just to try to keep the business wrapping up more efficiently?
Hi, folks. It's Sarah White.
Hey.
Hello. I've
That's
been
it.
lurking in the background.
Oh,
Happy New Year.
good thing we didn't talk about you any more
Oh,
than we
honey.
did.
I would have found out anyhow. Wendy had just lost her internet, so I just jumped on. So, Mr. Chairman, if I could, through you, I just wanted to address Mr. Chagnon's question. When the director of planning came and presented to you all in, I think it was December, about the rules and regulations, she mentioned that we had put in the rules and regs that this would go to 2 meetings a month. That is in line with the other boards and commissions, with the planning board and ZBA. And I believe that the vote that you all took was that that you would go for 2 meetings a month for like the first 6 months and then reevaluate after 6 months had passed, if I recall
Right.
correctly. Yeah, and I wasn't even at that meeting, and see what I know.
Impressive.
I wasn't either, but the minutes for it haven't come out yet.
Right, exactly. Yes, so that's what had occurred at that point. Yeah. But look at how much faster it is. You're at 8:08. It's like barely an hour
Yeah.
and 15 minutes.
That may work well, so.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily opposed. I was just surprised.
Mm-hmm. I know it's something we've talked about on and off for many years and whatnot. So now we're just going to give it a whirl.
Yeah, we'll see if it keeps them shorter. It's just for people who are in the world of shuttling kids here and there.
Yeah.
It requires rearranging parental duties. That's the only thing, making sure
Right.
everybody's.
I apologize for not coming on screen, but I don't really think you want to see my background right now. It's not the best looking wall.
I've actually considered doing one of these from my basement, which is unfinished. Sort of an ironic thing, but it's cold down there. Okay, cool. And you heard our back and forth on the rules, and we're
Yes.
gonna, if anyone has any other thoughts, we'll email them to you.
For sure, absolutely. Not a problem whatsoever. And I think Wendy and I both had internet problems tonight, so I'm glad that I was on and was able to jump on. So anything else you want to discuss about it, I'm here, happy to answer any questions. Or if you want to adjourn, that's fine too.
I think the only thing left is a CPC update, but that would be a Dick thing, right? And he's
Yes,
not
that's
here.
correct. That is correct.
That's the next time. So we could adjourn.
I
I
move
make
that
a motion to adjourn.
yeah.
Motions by Mr. Falvey and Vice Chair Kelly for adjourn.
I will second both.
All in favor
I'll
of
second
adjourning?
whichever one was made first.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Nobody? Mr. Falvey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Chair Chagnon,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes also. So we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice to see you all.
You too. See you later, Sarah.
Bye, Sarah.
Bye.